I always like to start off with our vision and mission of the Access to Justice Board, and also like to welcome folks here. So I'll just start with our vision of the Access to Justice Board is to envision a future where justice is accessible and is achieved through equity, healing, belonging, and community-centered solutions, fostering a society where all can thrive. And the mission of the Access to Justice Board is to unite, guide, and advance collective efforts to make justice for all an accessible reality for all communities across Washington. As a bridge between systems and communities most harmed by structural oppression, we work to dismantle systemic legal barriers and design solutions for a more fair, inclusive, and equitable future. So welcome everybody to the Access to Justice Board meeting. I know that we have a few folks here who are not board members, but who are guests. If guests would like to introduce themselves and also if they can also include the organization and your name so we can make sure we capture this in our meeting today. So I see Chris Bang. Do you want to start, Chris?
Yeah, hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Chris Beng. I use he, him pronouns. I am your liaison to the Washington State Bar Association Board of Governors. I'm glad to be here and happy to support, and I'll be giving an update, I think, later on in the agenda.
Great, thank you. Leslie Diaz-Perez.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am a limited licensed legal technician with Familias Fuertes here in Spokane, Washington. I'm here as a guest. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Sarah Robbins.
Good morning, Sarah Robbins, she, her pronouns. I'm the director of the Office of Civil Legal Aid.
Okay. And I think we have one more guest here, Worthington. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of last month's minutes. So did the board members have a chance to review those? Are there any edits or changes? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the July minutes.
Okay, thanks, Mercedes. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maya. All in favor, just raise your hand. Great. Anyone opposed of the board members? All right, so moved. Okay, so we'll do some introduction of our newest board members. Sitlali.
Morning, everyone. I would like to take the time to welcome both Carla Sullivan and Sergio Flores to the ATJ board. So earlier this year, we released applications for new to search for new members to join the ATJ board. And then a few months later, we started interviews, and that's where we found both Sergio and Carla. And each have their own unique set of skills and experience. Carla has a lot of experience working with folks with disabilities and ADA access. And Sergio is a prosecuting attorney in Auburn, and I believe also a pro tem judge. So I'll pass it on to Sergio and Carla. If you all want to formally introduce yourself to the group, go ahead, and let's start with Sergio.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am really excited to be part of the board. This is my second meeting, although our first meeting was down in Olympia to meet with the state Supreme Court justices. So this is actually my first working meeting. So I'm very excited to be part of the board and to work with all of these really talented individuals who are dedicating their time to make a change and an impact in our access to justice in our legal system. So, hello.
And I'm Carla Sullivan, and I use she, her pronouns. And this is also my first actual board meeting, and I'm also very excited to be here and to be a part of the work that we will be doing in the next 3 years. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you for joining.
Great. Thank you for both for your volunteer and your commitment to the work that we have. And we have a lot of work that we're going to be encompassing on the next couple of years here. So I know that it's going to be great to have your expertise and your knowledge and also lived experience here on this board. So the next item on the agenda is the court efficiency work group updates. Maya, can you provide us an update?
Hi everyone. It'll be a pretty brief update, I think. For those who may know, may not know, last legislative session, House Bill 1909, was introduced by Representative Jamila Taylor to create a task force to look at court efficiency, specifically around ways in which they can unify and streamline processes and procedures. And so especially it being something that could be very beneficial for specifically our unrepresented litigants and those to access justice in particular. The Access to Justice Board has created sort of a work group of different civil legal aid providers that are from the Delivery Services Committee, as well as some folks on this call, and some Access to Justice board members to see sort of what we can do in terms of creating our voice and making sure our voices are heard in terms of this work group or court efficiency in general. The group was thinking about changing the makeup of the task force, but I think in conclusion, thought about, using our energy in maybe the subcommittees that the work group creates after it gets created. So I think the main thing that we're working on is, sort of seeing where the bill stands. There's sort of one key factor that needs to change for it to be able to move throughout the legislative session. So probably going to be most likely just tracking the policy now and maybe getting the group together if we wanted to say anything in pro for the bill. So we're kind of just waiting, but still having the conversations about what does court efficiency look like. So if you're interested in joining the work group or want to know more, please feel free to reach out to Bonnie or I, and happy to be able to see how we can best assist.
Great. Thank you, Maya, for your work on this. And it was also part of one of our conversations that we had at the Access to Justice Conference as well, where we had members from different civil legal organizations provide their experience around the unification and how to make court efficiency, much more of a across the state, much more uniform. So thank you so much for your work on that. All right, and the next topic we have is letter regarding judicial ethics, opinion 25-04.
Yes, this one requires some action, so hopefully folks can be able to review the opinion. It is pretty brief, as well as pages 6 through 11. That is the decision framework that we have sort of implemented in terms of the work that we're doing for access to justice. So this came through the tech committee, where there was a judicial ethics opinion regarding not being able to send out a text message to folks through civil litigation process to know that they need to sort of understanding the civil procedures. So it would be sort of a blanket text saying that you need to be able to serve the other folk. It says it in the opinion. Let me pull it up. What exactly it needs to say regarding for small claims plaintiffs and how they need to make sure that they serve the defendant. And if they don't, then it'll be dismissed without prejudice. And so the opinion from the Ethics Advisory Committee is saying that ex parte communications. In the tech committee, we had a pretty good conversation about how this isn't, because it's not even coming technically from the judge, and now it's not necessarily legal advice, it's just civil procedure rules. And so there is a accompanied sort of letter that we're thinking about sort of sending to the Judicial Ethics Advisory Board to see if they can maybe rescind the opinion, as we believe that this does not lead towards access to justice for folks, and it does not allow courts and different legal entities to be able to use technology to benefit access to justice. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to go off mute or whatnot, but that's sort of where I would like the board to agree that we should move forward in terms of submitting a letter to the judicial ethics opinion.
Thank you, Maya, for first of all filling out the framework that we have. So in the documents, you see the ATJ Board decision-making framework. This was a framework that would help us to make decisions on how we want to proceed on different issues that are brought to the attention of the ATJ Board. And I really appreciate your work on filling this out because this helps bring clarity around the issues that are presented to the ATJ Board, as well as that how does it align to our specific mission, vision, values. And so we can, on a side conversation, we can talk about how we can kind of, make it more streamlined and make it much more, user friendly. But I really appreciate that. Are there any questions that we have for Maya around either the decision-making framework or the request to submit the letter in support or the concerns about the Judicial Ethics Advisory opinion? Yes, Nick.
Yeah, so I think we should send something, but I also think it might not be a bad idea if this was run through the Rules Committee and we get the Rules Committee folks that have participated in the past to look at this and have input on the letter and on the advisory opinion, because I know we've had advisory opinions reviewed by the Rules Committee before, but we have not previously reviewed this. So I don't want to take longer, but it would take longer to do that. But we could try. I don't know, Bonnie, when our next Rules Committee meeting would be, but we could also just schedule one.
You have one the third Tuesday of this month. So in, I think, about 2 weeks.
Perfect. So if we could wait till the next meeting, we could have the meeting. We could send this out and we could get input to see if anyone has thoughts on this rule, opinion, or letter.
Yes, that was definitely something that crossed my mind as well. So I'm willing. I don't think there's necessarily a deadline, so I'm willing to wait if that works for folks. And Bonnie, do you think that would work if we waited for the Rules Committee to review?
Yeah, I don't think we're operating under a deadline necessarily, other than, urgency to address the issue, but I think that should work.
Okay. So we will go ahead, and I don't know if there needs to be a motion on the floor to refer it to the Rules Committee for their review. And then if we can also get a recommendation, Nick, because Nick is the chair of the Rules Committee, if you can get a recommendation or from that committee. And then we will then be able to make a decision in our December meeting. Does that sound?
Sounds good.
Good. Okay, great. Thank you all. So next question, the next topic here, let me scroll back up to my long agenda here, is the National ATJ Commissions Chair and Staff Meeting Recap. And so Sitlali, do you want me to start, or would you like, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
You can go ahead and I'll pin.
Okay, sounds good. So on October 15th to the 17th, probably 3 weeks ago, I cannot believe it feels like it's been a lot longer. Diana, Bonnie, Sitlali, and I attended the Access to the ABA Forum, the third annual ABA Forum on Building Access to Justice for All, which was in Atlanta, Georgia. And the forum combined the annual joint IOLTA conference, the National Lawyers Referral Workshop, and the national meeting of the State Access to Justice Commission chairs, all in one place. And it was actually really nice to be able to connect with folks who are doing different bodies of work in this space. But Sitlali and I were there as representatives of the Washington Access to Justice Board. So there are about 30 ATJ commissions and boards in different structures and support memberships. And it was really great for us to engage with other ATJ boards and commissions across the country. And there's 30 of them. It was also really great to hear kind of the work they were doing, some of the challenges, legal issues around funding, political issues, and things like that, but also to engage folks to talk about what are the real issues around access to justice. A lot of the topics really were things that we're working on the Access to Justice Board. So it was great to kind of hear kind of like what was working, what wasn't working. Some of the topics included like the evolving federal landscape and what it means for state access to justice, disability access. That was a topic very similar to when we had our disability access conversation that was led by our justice around disability access at the Access to Justice Conference, strategic planning, legal resources, technology, lawyer referral programs, and community justice workers. And then we also had an opportunity to do a peer state breakout. So we broke into about 3-4 rooms where we worked with other ATJ commissions and just talked about what are some of the real issues that were coming up. One of the highlights, I think, was Sitlali and I got to do one of the sessions. It was a breakout session around having community-centered approach to our mission, vision, and values. And so we were able to share some of the work that we did in the past couple of years around bringing in community with lived experience onto the board. And very surprisingly, I think there was a lot of interest from other ATJ boards across the country around the work we were doing and how do we bring in community voices to this work. So there was a lot of conversation even during the debrief, but even in our session that Sitlali and I talked about were why this was so important. And I think the why is the most important piece of it. Like, why is this important is that it's not just for lawyers getting together to talk about what access looks like, but also people with lived experiences to hear their stories around what were the barriers and have a seat at the table. I think some of the few takeaways, and my 3 takeaways, and then Sitlal, I'll let you kind of share what your takeaways and your experience was. There are 3 really big takeaways from this conference. First of all, I would love to have a lot more board members to attend these conferences, especially the ATJ Chairs Conference, because there's a lot of learning and a lot of great best practices of how we can further access to justice in our state. But one of the things was really looking at the different board and commission structures. So about a week or 2 before we went to the conference, Diana worked on a document and submitted some documents about our structure, how many members on our board, what is our mission, vision, values, how we're operated, whether we are supported by the Bar Association or entities like the AOC, or is it a nonprofit? It's really interesting how the different funding structures and things like that. But it kind of gave me some pause to really think about where are some areas that as a ATJ board, what's the next, what we can become in terms of not only just the work, but also structurally where that work could look like and the people who could be part of that. The other thing that I found really interesting was, and I had mentioned during a work session, was the number of state Supreme Court justices from different states who had attended the Access to Justice Conference. There were a number of them. It was actually pretty surprising how involved their justices or judges or appellate judges were on their statewide Access to Justice Commission. And to me, it was an opportunity to think about what would it look like for Washington to think about what it could look like, including some voices from the bench. And the third thing I thought my takeaway was around the importance of having community members as board. I think that in my experience from hearing from how a lot of ATJ commissions operate where they don't have community voices in, but they're interested in it, or they have shared some of the challenge of it. But for us to have a model that has been very successful, or I think has been successful, and maybe Sitlali, you can share your perspective. But I think it has been extremely beneficial for our board to have much people with lived experience. Providing stipends, people with lived experience is also something that other boards had no idea how we integrate them, how we bring them into our space. So it was one of those things that those were my big three takeaways from that conference. So I'm going to pass it to you, Sitlali.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Mike. That conference, it's the first one I've attended. And just being in a space with all of the ATJ leaders and staff from around the country, it was impressive to see how each state is doing, their own thing. And like you said, Mike, the challenges that they're facing, that there's some states that don't even want their ATJ commissions to exist, and the hurdles that they have to go through to keep that work active. It's impressive. I think my biggest takeaway was that Washington State still remains one of the leaders in access to justice, specifically including community members and lived experience voices. It sounds like most of the other ATJs want to integrate lived experience somehow, but haven't really found a way that works. Of course, they're open to the idea. And even during the last conversation we were having, they were saying that even at that conference, they want to start including more community members and lived experience folks. So it's really cool to see how our state has taken the lead on that work. And I think we should really dive into that perspective of being the leaders there. And I think Bonnie had previously mentioned that maybe it's an opportunity for us to develop some type of training around that, or some type of like guidelines or maybe best practices. So I think a lot for us to think about, but it was great to be there. I know at the beginning I felt a little bit out of place because I'm like, wow, this is mostly justices and leaders and judges out there. And as the only community-based member on the ATJ board, it does feel a little bit intimidating, but it is, it gave me some sense of hope that at that conference, they're willing to open the doors and include more lived experience. And I agree with Mike that we should have more of our board members present at that conference as well.
Great. Anybody have any, actually, I'd love to hear from Diana and Bonnie, since you both also attended to the management side of the ATJ board piece, but do you have anything to share? Because I would love to hear your takeaways.
I'll just share, having gone to some in the past, I think it's a great opportunity to come with others who are doing similar work, and to know that we're not alone. And we also don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's some really great ideas happening in other states. And so it's a great way to connect across the country, particularly in this current climate, and to know their strategies that are being implemented, and they're people that are learning from us, and we're learning from others. So it was a very invigorating space to be in.
Great. Bonnie, anything to add, or you good?
No, I think you all covered it. I co-sign everything you all said.
Great, thank you. All right. Are there any questions from other board members or anything about the conference and anything in specific? And also, I actually forgot, I have been saving the materials, and so I am also happy to share some of the materials from that conference that we have. So I'm happy to share that with board members who are interested. So just reach out to me. Wonderful. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, which is the Goldmark Forum planning. So the Goldmark luncheon is going to be scheduled on February 27th, 2026. And I saw that I think Bonnie did change the date of our February meeting to coincide with the luncheon, which is something that we've done in the past, where we will have like our working session in the morning, and then we will do either we will get a table or share a table and go in the to the luncheon. And then following the luncheon, we also have an opportunity to do a forum, which is something that is coordinated by the ATJ board after the luncheon. Usually the luncheon, I think, ends about 1:30, and I think the forum usually is about 2 to 4. I think that's kind of what the timeline looks like. Like I said, it's save the date, February 27th, 2026, 2 to 4, and it's at the Westin in downtown Seattle. I did solicit at the last disco meeting for topics and didn't hear any topics specifically from there, but I did send out an email, I think earlier this week or late last week, to members to see if there's anyone who has any specific topics. I did get a few, I did get some topic ideas that I wanted to share with this group, but then I also would love to hear other topics that we can do for the forum. So there was a suggestion. It's interesting because I actually didn't think about this, but there was a suggestion that we would do 3 1-hour panels. So we would be very, I mean, it would be very, very, very different, you know, having 3 panels happening at once. And these were the 3 topics. And so we wanted to share that with the group. So panel 1 could potentially be on immigration enforcement, the impact on the immigration community, and the responses. Part of my email was also saying who would be great presenters for this topic, and so I got names for this, which could be, haven't reached, there's no confirmation, but you know, these were potential people who could be part of a panel or conversation or lead the conversation. Would be like Northwest Immigrant Rights Project and other community organizations, including Asian, Latinx, and African community members, to participate and talk about the impact of some of the immigration enforcement in Washington state. Another idea for the Goldmark Forum was the impact of government cutbacks on benefit programs such as SNAP, medical, unemployment, Social Security, and the response. And I believe it's probably what the community response or legal advocates' responses to those. And possible presenters could be the Northwest Justice Project, Solid Ground, Unemployment Law Project, and Benefits Law Center. And then panel 3 would be attacks on voting rights and the response to attempts to disenfranchise low-income and immigrant communities. And the possible panel presenters could be the ACLU, One America, and other community organizations doing this work. So, like I said, didn't get that many responses to my email call, and I know it was kind of like last minute, but wanted to keep this space open. The reason I'm trying to bring this up in this meeting is because knowing that this is going to happen on February 27th, so we have a date secured. The time is 2 to 4. We would love to have input and also people who are interested in helping to plan this. But the planning, of course, as we all know, planning takes 2 to 3 months before. And so we're kind of in that time that we will need to kind of finalize some topic decisions, find out who's going to help lead it, and then make some decisions on the format and possible topics and themes. Any questions? It's a lot of me talking right now, but are there other topic suggestions that I did not mention so far? So one is immigration, impact of government cutbacks, voting rights. Any other topics?
Something might come out of the joint bar ATJ. I'm just thinking that topics relating to innovative forms of addressing access.
Okay. I was actually thinking about that too, Chrissy, because I was thinking about some of the work that we're all doing. Like I'm even thinking, Maya, I know that, I mean, you're super busy, but you know, your work around the court efficiency work group could be something that could also be a topic of interest. You know, a lot of times the reason why we usually reach out to DISCO members is to get ideas that would bring people in, right? Because after the luncheon, it's a great opportunity for us to talk about what are the local and regional issues that really address, you know, that really pertain to access to justice issues. So it could also be issues around disability access. You know, it could be other topics that you think are interesting that came up during the Access to Justice conference that we had. Any other conference? Any other ideas? Okay. Second follow-up question, because I think the timeline, and Bonnie, correct me if I'm wrong, we should probably do the timeline for this, probably make a final decision by our December meeting. Is that, or do we need to do it before then, do you think?
I mean, I always love extra time to plan, but I think by the
Yeah.
December meeting should be our final deadline.
Okay. So December, we will make a final decision of what that will be. Also, it'll help the LFW to help us if we are going to do multiple sessions or just one session to find rooms after the luncheon to make sure. And I will just say from last year, and I know there's a couple board members that did attend, it was a great opportunity to engage people in the legal community about issues around access. I think we had some great presenters, and so we did, that was probably one of the activities that we do in terms of really talking about access issues. So, all right. Anyone on the board interested in helping to plan this? Because it will take some requirement. Some of it, part of it is kind of tricky because I know it might depend on the topic. Like, for example, if it's a topic around disability access, maybe Carla would have some interests in kind of helping with that or just specific. But if there's anyone that has any interest in helping with this with the planning piece of this.
I'm interested in helping the plan.
Okay, thanks, Mercedes. And of course, even though you're helping, is not like you're doing it all. We all will pitch in to help support you in this, and I'm definitely going to be available.
I'm interested too in helping plan this.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, last call for any topics from this conversation before we move to the next. All right. The next one is the Equal Justice Coalition updates. And I don't know, is Nadia?
I got an
Nadia
email that she's not available today.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we'll just have to wait for the next one. And I didn't see Abigail. Abby, was she here? I don't know if folks jumped on. I didn't see Abby.
Abby couldn't make it. So I said that I would just let people know that she really doesn't have any updates with the federal government still shut down. Her update is usually around the Legal Services Corporation funding, and it sounded like there was supposed to be a vote in the Senate today on the shutdown that already fell apart.
Oh, wow.
It's not going to happen. So yeah, she didn't have anything else to update.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
And you're next with the state updates. You want to give us a
Yeah. So OCLA has submitted our decision packages for the state supplemental session, which starts on January 12th, I believe, and it's a short session. I think we've all seen both from last session and the forecasting that we've seen during this interim period that the state budget is not good. It's just, I think, a mild way of putting it. So it's going to be a difficult session to get additional resources, but we're still asking for what we need. We have 4 separate decision packages. Our first one is on eviction right to counsel. During the biennial budget, we were fully funded for fiscal year 26, but we were not fully funded for the second year of the biennium, fiscal year 27, by $3 million. So we are asking for $3 million for fiscal year 27 to stay at the same level of funding that we're currently at. If we do not get that funding, we are predicting a loss of about 17 attorneys across the state, which equals about 2,000 clients a year not getting representation in eviction proceedings. We're working on, we're optimistic cautiously optimistic, but we are working on contingency planning. We're going to have to revamp the entire way that the appointed counsel program works, because with that loss of funding, we will not be able to serve every client, which we're currently doing in every part of the state right now, except King County, where we've had to do some triage just due to the volume. So that's one of our decision packages. We are also we are rolling out a brand new appointed counsel program for discharges from long-term care facilities. That is going to start on January 5th. It was funded at a small amount in the biennial budget between our agency and DSHS, but we did not get the full funding to fully implement it. Right now, we think we have enough funding to appoint attorneys in about 10% of cases. So we're asking for additional funding of about $2 million for fiscal year 27 to fully fund that program. And we'll keep everyone updated as that program launches at the beginning of January. I'm really excited. This is an issue as a former public benefits attorney, seeing just really bad discharges from facilities, people being left in hospitals, people being taken to homeless shelters, people left with family members that are not able to care for their medical needs. I think this is going to be really a really big asset to our folks that are really the most vulnerable. We also have a small decision package, about $800,000 for our children's representation program for a vendor rate adjustment. We just our contracts right now we're not paying quite as much as our counterpart at Office of Public Defense for parent representation. So we're asking for parity with their contracts. And then lastly, our reentry legal assistance program. Before this biennial budget, across multiple programs, OCLA had a portfolio of reentry programs that were about $12 million for the biennium. And with the loss of funding last session, we are now down to $2 million for the biennium. So we're asking for, we didn't feel like we could ask for the full amount because of how bleak the state budget is, but we're asking for an additional $1 million for reentry legal aid. And hopefully in the biennium, we'll ask for more. We think this is a part of legal aid that's important to help people with barriers coming out of incarceration to be able to get housing and jobs. So those are our four buckets of funding we are asking for. I was hoping to have our one pager done so I could share it with everyone today. I think it will be done at the beginning of next week. Happy to chat with people about, what this means in your part of the state. If people want to talk to legislators or want to, understand more, I'm always happy to connect with folks.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, for the update. Are there any questions from board members? Sarah, I do have a question when it comes to, with the state with the session coming up, has ATJ Board in the past done any sort of letters of support or anything like that, or is that something that's considered off limits? I don't know what that, I haven't seen anything in my time here, but I don't know.
Don't know the answer to that question. Maybe Diana might know. We obviously welcome any organizations or individuals that want to, support legal aid funding, we welcome it. But I actually don't know if that's been done in the past. Diana, do you recall?
For the board or for the bar?
For the board, I'm sorry, I should have clarified that from the board, ATJ board.
Okay.
I know there's always been that question around what's advocacy versus education, and it sometimes is a little bit gray, but I don't know if
I
that
think
has
that
been passed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the Equal Justice Coalition is one of the board's official committees, and so I think that's how historically the board has been engaged, but it doesn't mean it could be the only thing. And the reason why I was asking about the bar, because I know legislative priorities, they always include supporting civil legal aid funding.
Okay. All right. Well, something for us to explore, just to kind
Yeah,
of clarify, what that could support looks like, and I don't know if it's something that's, maybe I'm not as versed of what that could look like, or if we're not even allowed to do that. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, happy to continue to have that conversation. And we have been meeting with the Equal Justice Coalition, and are waiting to hear more about what their priorities are for the session.
Yeah. Can someone remind me which board member is doing the EJC or working with the EJC? I don't have that, because maybe that is the opportunity. Do you remember, Bonnie? I don't have my committee.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick and
Okay.
I'll let you know. I don't know off the
Yeah.
top of my head either.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. And I don't think Alex is online from Campaign for Equal Justice. No. Okay. All right. I think we are almost on the tail end of our agenda. So are there any other updates and announcements that folks like to share? Either upcoming events, anything in particular? Any announcements? Okay. Well, I think we are ending our meeting early, hearing none. I was just kind of on a separate note, just because we do have about 35 minutes. Are board members able to reconvene for that working session after we close the session? I know that folks have a hard stop at 11:30. Would that be okay for board members to stay on and we end our public session? That sound okay? Okay.
Actually,
Sounds
Mike,
great.
since
Oh
you
yeah,
all,
sorry.
since we have a
Oh
little bit
yeah,
of time,
yeah, Chris. Yeah,
I would love to
absolutely.
just take 2 minutes. I'm sorry for extending your all's meeting, but I haven't had the chance to meet many of you, but I do know Mike. So just by way of background, my name is Chris Banghi Him. I'm Japanese Korean American. I started off my legal career as a immigration attorney, and then I met Mike Chen at the Office for Civil Rights, where he was my boss for a couple of years. I'm currently doing civil rights work with King County and King County Metro, working on non-discrimination, connecting civil rights to equity and access for people with disabilities and universal access. I think that the mission of your work is so critically important, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this and be assigned to be your liaison. That being said, I'm the newest liaison and Board of Governors member, so I'm still learning quite a bit. So if you have serious questions about how things work, go to Diana and Bonnie. But I am here to support you however I can. I'm going to be sending an email to Mike about how I hope to matrix all the places where I'm liaisoning, and hopefully I can be a good resource for both connection to the Board of Governors, and also like highlighting the things that we need to be doing as a legal profession. And yeah, so happy to talk more. But Mike, I'll be talking with you a little bit more about what that looks like. But it's just a real honor to meet you. Thank you for having me in this space, and I'll hope to be seeing a lot of you soon.
Yeah, great. Kristen, thank you so much for being at today's meeting. And also, if there are any updates that you want to provide from the WSBA, I know that you just had your meeting. Feel free to just share those for as announcements. We don't really get formal announcements other than if I hear from Francis, but if there's any updates that you have on
Oh
the
yeah, absolutely. So I do hope to give, I'm not sure how often I'll be able to attend these meetings all the time, but I will commit to like regular communications via email to the folks that you want me to. And I think now is a great time if you've ever wondered how the BOG works. Sometimes we are discussing an increase to our bar license fees at the upcoming meeting next week. I know that's always a topic of interest and conversation. So if you want to see, the things that go into the discussion, the things that we are considering, that's a great way to see who's all in the room making these, I think, critical decisions. There's also a lot of other things going on, and I'll send the full agenda to you all. It's also posted online, but always happy to highlight those, I think, juicy things and of interest to all of our members.
Yeah, great. Yep. And like I had mentioned to the board members in our working session, is that we are looking at partnering with the Bar Association on really important initiatives. And so we're really, I see our work with Chris and Chris' work with our board as really important work. And so really looking at where those connecting points where we both have an interest in justice for all and what that could look like for everyone here today. So great. Thank you, Chris, for introducing. Okay, well, I will just say we adjourn this meeting at 10:59 unless there's any other last minute announcements. All right, and if board members can stay on this line, we will convene